daily short bouts of intense stress actually reversed the effects of chronic stress. So I'm really excited to tell you about this next study for a number of reasons. First of all, it's extremely recent. Second of all, it's very well grounded in our current understanding of the mechanisms of stress, trauma, and PTSD, and unlearning of stress, trauma, and PTSD. And third, it points to a actionable protocol that, while certainly is not the only approach that I think people could or should take for fear, trauma, and PTSD, is one that I think we are going to see implemented into the clinical setting very soon, if it's not happening already.
The short-term stress that you usually experience in your everyday life is also called acute stress, like a traffic jam, an argument with your wife, or when your boss scolds you for rough work. Short-term stress can sometimes enhance mental and physical performance through effects on the brain. Stay till the end to find out how you can use stress to erase fear and trauma.
There's a fourth reason I'm very interested in it, which is that my lab works on stress relief, and tools for managing sleep and improving focus, etc. And one of the hallmarks of the studies we've been doing lately is very brief 5-minute-a-day interventions of the sort that was used in this particular study, although I should emphasize I had nothing to do with this particular study. Now, this particular study was carried out in an animal model in mice. The work in my laboratory focuses on human subjects, but the similarities of the stress system, at least at the level that it was explored in this study, I think have great relevance, maybe even direct relevance to humans. So the title of this study is Repeated Exposure with Short-Term Behavioral Stress Resolves Pre-Existing Stress-Induced Depressive-like Behavior in Mice. Again, this study was in mice.
Chronic stress creates adaptive changes in the brain via the accumulative action of glucocorticoids, which is sometimes related to mood disorders. A research study on mice suggests that a daily 5-minute restraint resolves pre-existing stress-induced depressive-like behavior. The repeated injection of glucocorticoids in the mice served as an antidepressant for short-term stress. According to Huberman, human beings have the same effect as this study, and this process may become clinical soon.
And basically what they did is they stressed out mice, got them depressed, and you actually can do that in a mouse using a restraint protocol. And that's a long-lasting restraint protocol of 15 minutes or more. Mice don't like it. You do it often enough, they stop working so hard in their life, in their mouse life, to gain food, to gain mates. They show depressive symptoms at a number of levels. They show elevated glucocorticoids. You see the same thing in humans. Chronic stress in humans, lasting weeks or more, does the same exact thing. So again, a very close match here. In terms of mechanism overall. And then what they did was a very counterintuitive thing. Rather than give these animals stress relief at the level of, reducing their anxiety with benzodiazepines, or giving them a nice little mouse vacation, or enriched environment, things that have been done in a lot of previous studies, what they did is they subjected them to 5 minutes a day of intense stress, but only 5 minutes a day. And what they found was, miraculously, but also very convincingly, daily short bouts of intense stress actually reversed the effects of chronic stress. And it did this at the level of glucocorticoids, of hormones, of neurotransmitters, and a number of other different mechanisms.
Huberman mentioned that certain respiratory protocols reduce stress. When you suffer from trauma, anxiety, or PTSD, you need to consider what you got there, along with your current state.
Now, I find this very exciting for a number of reasons, but in particular because my laboratory, in collaboration with David Spiegel's laboratory, our associate chair of psychiatry at Stanford, been exploring how 5-minute-a-day respiration protocols can alleviate stress. And while those data are not yet published, they are at the stage where I'm comfortable talking about them, and we are seeing some very impressive and significant effects on stress reduction, not just from respiration protocols that allow people to calm themselves, but also respiration protocols that bring people into a heightened state of autonomic sympathetic arousal, aka stress. When it comes to trauma, anxiety, and PTSD, and the treatment of trauma, anxiety, and PTSD, it's not just the state that you are in or that you go into, it's how you got there and whether or not you had anything to do with it. We have a system that can generate threat responses, and in the case of trauma, PTSD, and extreme stress, chronic stress, that system gets ramped up so that it takes very little, maybe even just a memory, or maybe even an association that we're not even aware of, a location triggers something, we're not even aware of it, and we start experiencing that symptomology.
There is no specific medication for stress, but there are some medications that can help you manage or reduce some signs of stress. Your doctor might prescribe you sleeping pills or minor tranquilizers if you are having trouble sleeping. However, certain antidepressants may worsen your condition and cause depression symptoms, anxiety, or suicidal thoughts in some people.
How do we recalibrate the system? Well, most of the approaches that are out there involving drug treatments, typical drug treatments, would involve suppressing the level of internal arousal, just trying to bring that down. Now, some of those drug treatments work, but oftentimes they don't. And if you think about it, it's probably not surprising that they don't, because by taking a drug that just lowers your anxiety overall, you're creating a different sort of miscalibration of the system.
Huberman is studying the respiratory protocols that calm the human body and reduce stress overall. The process is simple: a double inhale through the nose followed by a long exhale from the mouth, which is known as cyclic sighing. The human subjects practiced it for 5 minutes and felt really calm after that. However, Huberman did not calculate stress and anxiety levels during this exercise.
So what we've been doing in human subjects is having them do either breathing protocols that calm them, and I'll explain what that is in a moment, or doing breathing protocols that increase their level of autonomic arousal and seeing how that impacts their response to stress overall, not just during that particular breathing protocol. There's a pattern of breathing that we all do in sleep when our carbon dioxide levels in our bloodstream get too high, and we do this when we get claustrophobic, meaning we do it reflexively, and that's a double inhale through the nose followed by a long exhale. So it's and yes, the inhales should be through the nose, and yes, the exhales should be done through the mouth, ideally. So it's a big filling of the lungs through 2 breaths back to back, inhales, even if you can only sneak in a little air on that second one, and then a long exhale, which allows you to offload a lot of carbon dioxide in the exhale. And we have people doing that in real time, anytime they experience stress, but the particular breathing protocol that we've been giving human subjects is for them to do the repeated, what we call cyclic sighing. So double inhale, exhale, double inhale, exhale, double inhale, exhale, repeatedly for 5 minutes, which is actually a pretty long time to repeat that, but you can do it pretty slowly. And people report, and the data point to the fact that it's very calming. People feel more relaxed afterwards, and that relaxation wicks out into other aspects of their life.
Huberman also asked the human subject to perform a rapid breathing process known as hyperventilation. This overbreathing can sometimes leave you feeling breathless, and you need to stop after 25 to 30 breaths and exhale for an extended period to clear out your lungs. After 5 minutes, the subjects reported that they were feeling stressed after performing hyperventilation.
Now, we did not look at stress and trauma in that condition. We also have another condition where people do what's called cyclic hyperventilation, which is very different and creates a very different internal state and is somewhat stressful. It's 5 minutes a day of stress, much like the study that I just described, and it involves basically doing this for 5 minutes, which is hyperventilating, which is not continuously for the 5 minutes, because many people would pass out or feel extremely uncomfortable. It involves inhale, exhale, very deep, inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, and then every 25 or 30 breaths or so, doing a full exhale and holding one's breath, lungs empty, for about 25, maybe 30, maybe even 60 seconds, and then continuing until 5 minutes is up. Subjects report, and our data indicate that people feel a heightened level of autonomic arousal. In fact, I can feel it right now, even from that very brief cyclic hyperventilation bout I just did. You feel it heating up. Some people will perspire, some people get wide-eyed, some people feel agitated. That's adrenaline being released into your system. Now, I'm not suggesting everyone run out and do this, and if you have a predisposition to panic attack or anxiety attacks, please don't do this, because it is very stimulating and can trigger those sorts of attacks. But this 5 minute a day protocol of cyclic hyperventilation does lead to big increases in autonomic arousal, so it's stressful, in air quotes. But to bring us back to my colleague David Spiegel's quote, it really was him that said it, not me. It's not just about the state that you're in. It's about the state that you're in plus how you got there and whether or not you directed entry into that state. I know there are going to be people out there that nonetheless are going to want to experiment with some of this. I will say that I do not think it matters how one gets into that stressed state, provided it is self-directed, and that therefore could be cold shower. It could be ice bath. It could be anything that induces an acute, meaning a sudden onset of adrenaline, and is self-directed. That's really the key feature here.
What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comment section below. If you found this video interesting or helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and press the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future uploads. Until then, take care.